Good morning, good afternoon, good night to everyone. Thank you very much for listening and being with us. Today, I have the super mega power of pleasure of having Àlex Bacardit here. He's a friend. He's a person who has inspired me for long and for many years, and I'm super excited to interview him because he's the fucking king of interviewing everyone. Thank you, Àlex, for being here. He's from Startupgrind and for Marsbased, and he's going to tell us a little bit of his personal story and why, for me, he's an amazing growth hacker. Thank you for being here, Àlex.
Thank you, Gerard, for the invitation. I'm really happy to be here. I don't know what's going to come out of this, and I don't know what you have prepared. I don't know anything. Where should I start?
Àlex, you know that I am not very good at organizing or preparing. You know what? I think it's the most beautiful thing is just letting it flow. And
yeah.
Tell me, do you prepare your interviews before you interview anyone?
No, I don't. I started interviewing people like 5 years ago when I started organizing events before Startupgrind. But, and then I didn't prepare much. Like I do my research, I take a little bit of a peek into their background and where they come from and what their evolution in their career. But literally, I don't spend too much time on remembering questions. I've got a really terrible memory. So I never memorize dates, figures. We don't talk about like investment rounds or revenues and all of that because I've got a terrible memory. I prefer to have stories and business lessons learned, right? So when I started doing Startupgrind, which was April 2014, for about a year and a half, I would have my iPad on me, and then I would have like some sort of guidelines of the questions. I would revert to the iPad and look for a question when I went blank or where the speaker would give a really short answer, and I was like, okay, I didn't have time to prepare the next one, but it felt too scripted. So when I was in the US, we do a global conference of Startupgrind every year in Silicon Valley, and I was talking to the guy who runs it in Chicago, and he gave me the best advice, and I'm always super grateful for Tom Dennison, because he told me I just sit there and I listen, because if you listen, you're great. You can create good conversations, right? So he breaks the ice by asking, what's your background? Where did you grow up? And then he builds up from there. And I'm doing the same. And I feel like I've stepped up my game at interviewing people by doing this. If you have the power of listening, you will have the power of asking the best questions.
I love this recommendation about listening and what's your background, because sometimes when you start interviewing, you have a few set of questions, but everyone has different point of view how he wants the interview to go along. But Àlex, what's your background?
Before going into the background, just to add up a little bit to what you said, is I remember like sometimes I would ask a question to an interviewer, to the speaker, and we would talk, I don't know, about growth hacking, right? And if the conversation would drift to something else, to company culture, for instance, and it really pissed me off when I had like 3 or 4, 6 questions about growth hacking, and it felt bad to drag them back to the original topic, just because I knew they wanted to talk about this other topic, in which they are particularly more interested or more passionate about. So I just follow them. The conversation is more natural and less scripted. So my background is I'm a developer. I studied computer science, started developing when I was pretty young. I started creating websites at the age of like 12, something like that. I learned BASIC and then PHP, then all sort of programming languages, studied computer science. So did a bit of freelancing through the uni years. So once I started working, it was a bit weird because once you finish the university, at least I finished in 2009, and Spain was particularly bad at this. It was in the middle of the crisis, right? The worst crisis in a lot of years. And there was only one way out. The only way was go into the corporate world, right? Either banking, insurance, or consulting. So I joined Deloitte as a junior programmer. And funnily enough, I knew more about programming than a lot of people there. So I didn't quite fit there. I never quite fitted in the corporate world. I did about like 5-6 years of corporate world, suit and a tie, fixed schedules, terrible technologies, meetings all day, 3,000 emails per day, But you don't get shit done, right? You don't have an impact. You're just a number. I remember in Deloitte, my email address was alex.rodriguez21@Deloitte.
Nice.
Yes. So, it kind of like
Nice.
gives you the perspective of how little you feel there. That's my background.
Good, I love it, Alex. And when did you start to go? Let's do a startup. What was the point that you decided to go through startup, and when? That's 2 for 1. And when did you start the Startupgrind, and why?
So long story short, I never wanted to be an entrepreneur, right? One of my co-founders now, which happens to be one of my best friends, he was pushing me and a couple of other friends to create a company for a couple of years. And funnily enough, we were always, we had our head and our mind somewhere else, right? I was traveling a lot, and we were young, we were kind of like partying, and we were happy at our jobs more or less. And so we kind of like put it off for a couple of years until, we were so fed up. We reached a point where we were so fed up with our jobs, and we decided to create our own company. So long story short, we decided to try a couple products, which didn't work, and I'm glad they didn't work because they were shit. But through doing these failed products, we discovered that we were not so great at ideas or at like product startups, but we were good at developing. We were good at consulting. So we decided to start a consulting company. And thus, at the very end of 2013, beginning of 2014, I moved to the US. We incorporated the company in Barcelona, though. So we created Marsbased, software development consulting, and we do web and mobile developments with Ruby on Rails, Node.js, React, Angular, all sort of like new frameworks. And we do it with a creative way, right? A very disruptive way. We're just disrupting the way consulting is being made because we're 100% remote. We treat our employees like our best asset because that's what they are. We are the kind of consulting company that says no to most projects, and we just focus on the ones we can add a lot of value to, where we can create impact. We pass on a lot of projects because we don't align with the company culture or how the client operates, or they're not aligning technology. So basically, we don't say yes to everything because we only want to make sure that we work on the projects we actually can bring the best value. So while I was in the US and I was looking for clients, funnily enough, one person from Barcelona referred me to Startupgrind. They were doing this global conference in Silicon Valley. It was in Palo Alto back then in February 2014. And I said, wow, this is probably a good event for me to go and promote Marsbased and look for the first clients, right? Because at the time we had like barely one client, 2 clients maybe. And long story short, as soon as I stepped into the conference, I saw the values of Startupgrind, of always helping each other, making friends, not contacts, and helping others before helping yourself, and giving before taking. And that resonated with me. We were organizing an event already in Barcelona, as I mentioned a little bit earlier. And I said, like, wow, I'm already doing this. And these guys were looking for people to expand to Europe. And I said, well, I can be your person in Barcelona. They had posted some ads saying we need people in Moscow, Barcelona, Milan, Berlin, Paris, Amsterdam, so on and so forth. And so I did the interview process, and then I got elected as chapter director of Startupgrind in Barcelona. We've been doing it since April 2014. We've got the event number 60. We haven't missed any month since 2014. So that means we've done 60 events in 57 months. And it's pretty amazing, actually. We're doing an amazing job.
This is amazing, Alex. And this is like what I would love to congratulate you, that your consistency, man. I mean, since I came into the startup world here in Barcelona, you were a referent, which I like to congratulate. And it's just like for the consistent work that you've been doing, and how important is consistency?
It's super important. You always read about it. You read that quitters never win. It's not a matter of winning. It's just a matter of just being there. As a young startup, as a person that just came newly into the startup world, when you're an underdog, no one gives a shit about you. People want to see track record. If you're a startup, they want to see, the investors want to see revenue. They want to see clients. They want to see downloads, they want to see metrics, right? If you're an event and you're looking for good speakers or sponsors or whatever, people want to see, oh, so how many events have you done and what's your average attendance, so on and so forth, right? And your first event is like, well, I don't have anything, I'm just starting. So you're a project, you're a prospect, actually. Potentially, you can be very big. And the good thing about Startupgrind is we've got the Google for Startups partnership, which kind of opens a lot of doors. But then you need to prove yourself worthy, right? So, in words of our CEO at Startupgrind, Derek Anderson, he's very right about this. Events that happen sporadically or once a year, they are events or conferences or congresses. But events that happen every month or more regularly even, they are communities. And that's the difference between Startupgrind and other communities, right? That and our values. But the consistency is there. For instance, the same happened with Marsbased, right? When we started, it's like, who's going to trust a small consultancy that I don't know these guys, they don't have any portfolio, they work remotely, it sounds like a fucking scam, right? It's perfectly reasonable not to hire us. But then we see that a lot of terrible companies or companies who do like really bad work, just because they've been there in the long run, they've been there for like 10, 15, 20 years or whatever, they're getting projects because of the brand or because they've been there, right? So, you know, the famous sentence that goes like, no one gets fired for hiring IBM. Yeah. So even though IBM might do terrible work, I'm not saying they're doing it, but they had a nasty reputation for a while. And some consultancies and dev agencies, we know from here, they have a really terrible reputation. Nevertheless, they get a lot of gigs and projects, and they have like 30, 40, 80, 120 people or even bigger, right? Just because they've been there. So people kind of assume that if you're an old company and you haven't died yet, it's because you're okay, right? So it's always a challenge when you're starting, and consistency is the only way to kind of like overcome all the obstacles.
I love a few days ago when we meet in Christian's party, we were saying, and it's something that it really got stuck in me, and how important is building a community. We're building a community here at Find Athlete. You're building a community, and you customer, and it's something that it was funny for me to hear from you. It's like, sure, I never do the interviews for my customers, and you know, you do it. And from my point of view, I do it because I like it, I enjoy it. It brings community. If I ever need anything, and something like, if you ever need anything from the community, they're going to be happy to help you. And if you can share, how important is community for any company?
Unless you're a super powerful company that you can go without a community, it's all right. But eventually you wanna have it, right? I'm trying to think of the big corporates, right? Big corporates, they know there is a value in a community, right? So that's why there's corporate mentoring. That's why we've got sponsors at Startupgrind who are big corporates, like, I don't know, Page Personal, banking institutions. Now we've got a law firm. We've got Shipstead, which is, you know, the biggest marketplace and classified company in the world, things like that. They want to create community. They want to interact with the community. Therefore, they come to us. I'm thinking that in a few years, I'm not good at forecasting. I'm really terrible about that. But if I were to forecast something, I assume that in about like 10 to 20 years, every company will need to have a community. And those with a community, they thrive faster. We see it. We see companies like the likes of Buffer, for instance, has got an amazing community. The guys from Nomad List has got an amazing community. The guys at Basecamp, I'm a huge follower of Basecamp, and there's a community of followers of Basecamp. Or even like WordPress has got an amazing community, even though it's a terrible product, but it's got a really good community, right? So there are lots of communities, and like you said, I didn't even think about like going there and asking for help. I know that if I ever did it, most likely people will help me, right? But it's a way of you know, feeding back to the people that might be your next you, right? When we started the project, we started Marsbased and we started Startupgrind, we were helped by people. So it feels only natural to do the same once you are in a position of slight power. You don't need to be rich, you don't need to be famous. But once you've got a platform or some means to help people, you should do it. I think like you should do it. If you're not doing, you're a greedy fuck. If you're just starting out, it's okay. You don't have time or focus or money to do it. But if you're a stable company, once you reach stability and you want to grow a community and then you want to feel better, I think it's really good to reward people by helping them on their way up, because we were helped at the beginning. It feels really good. And moreover, like, if you want to be pragmatic, there's a pragmatic point of view in this, right? So the thing about paying it forward makes you feel like you're contributing to the ecosystem and helping others and so on and so forth. But in a way, deep inside you, you know that when it will come back to you, it will reward you tenfold, at least.
I love this, and I don't know if you have the feeling sometimes like we do it because of love, and we don't do any interviews because we want. But in a way, somehow you're giving the value, and if this comes back to you, does it happen that sometimes you get customers come by someone told, "Oh, I've been with Àlex," and something like this. If you can, I don't know, it's not your customers who are on the field, but these people will recommend you to other people. I don't know if this happens to you. How do you get new customers?
Yeah, so it's pretty funny. Most people think that we are getting customers through our events at Startupgrind, and it's not very accurate. Entrepreneurs are not our customers. I mean, if they can afford us, great. We're doing Startupgrind to genuinely to help the community, right? Our clients, we get them mostly through word of mouth. That's number one. It's word of mouth because I spend about like 90% of my time meeting people. I meet people, talk to people, I help people. I go to prospective clients. I go to events, conferences. I mean, I go to Web Summit, for instance, and I go to other business events. And so, by talking to lots of people, there's always someone who says like, I don't know your services right now. I don't need them, but you should talk to this other person. My partner over here, my friend, has got a startup. They need to build like an MVP, or he works at this corporate and they need another provider and things like that. So word of mouth is really important. That's why we, as a consultancy, we pass on a lot of projects, and we only work on those that we can do very well. Why? Because our clients are our best salespeople. Literally, I don't do cold emails. I don't do cold calls. I don't do any outbound. We decided in the first year of the company that we were never going to be an outbound company. Why? Because inbound is working really well for us. We've got recommendation from clients. We've got, I know. That's why without you find out.
I love it, Àlex. I love it. And I think listen every point of view, which I think it's amazing.
Definitely. Just because we want to differentiate from other consultancies where they send too many emails and they send just too much outreach on LinkedIn and so on and so forth, right? We don't want to be intrusive. We know that our kind of company is the kind of company that you go to when something is broken, right? We're kind of like a dentist. I always say it. We're like a dentist. You come to us when your things are broken or when it hurts, or else, and when you need to come to us, you will ask for a recommendation. Like literally, you don't Google dentist in Barcelona. You always ask your friends or your dad or your mom is like, hey, I need to go to the dentist. Where do you go to, right? So we know that people ask for, hey, I need to do some development. Can you recommend some agency, right? And that's where we want to be. We want to be top of the mind. So therefore, our strategy is 100% inbound, right? It's based on content. We've got a blog, a very specialized blog on technical stuff. Of course, we do the events. We've done also technical events outside of Startupgrind about Ruby on Rails and growth hacking and MVPs and technology and all of that. We've got a newsletter since pretty much about a year ago. Sorry, is that?
No, I'm just asking because I'm going to show you a book that you're going to like. I just have it on top of the table.
Yeah. Go ahead. The video is slightly delayed, so I think like when you're talking, I don't see you moving, then it starts. Where's the book? Let's see the book.
Do you know this book? It's coming up 15 seconds afterwards.
Yeah.
Rework.
All right. Okay. I didn't recognize the title in Spanish, but yeah, this book is amazing. Yeah.
It is amazing. And now that you see Jason Fry from Ruby on Rails, it was really a blow-minding book. amazing to recommend to everyone. And I think you work on Ruby Rails a lot, and
Yes.
it makes sense. And the way you tell me, he talks a lot about don't promote your product, just build what you need. Forget about the startup world, forget about the investments, just make your own shit, guys. And they're making, I don't know what the turnover was, like millions, these guys, and there's just a bunch of guys enjoying the company. They also have a few things that like 4-hour silent work, stuff like this. They have like a few things that we have tried to implement. Obviously it takes time, but tell me if you can tell me a few things that you implement. Sometimes in here in the office, it's difficult to concentrate. I try to go away and see that. What do you distract yourself in the company? How do you work when there's too many distractions?
Well, first of all, if we were ever to sell the company, I think we would only sell it to a company like Basecamp. Our company culture is 95% based on that book. That book and remote, which is the other remote no office required, is the other book that they wrote, and recently they have released It Doesn't Have to Be Crazy at Work, which is also a really good book, but kind of like mixes the two of them together, right? So all of these, no bullshit, no VC, no shortcuts. Literally, that philosophy is 100% our philosophy. I've written a fair amount of blog posts about it. One of our best blog posts, and it went viral last year, I wrote one that is called #NoShortcuts. And I was explaining how we run the company with no advertising, no venture capital or investment, no growth hacking, no shortcuts, basically, just no lies, no cutting corners. And because most of all, our company is a lifestyle business. It's not a company to become rich. We're not going to make millions. I mean, right now we make $1 million a year, and we're a team of 15, which is good, and it's good enough. And we decided, you know what? Let's stop here for a while. Feels really good. We got a solid team. We got so many projects. I was like, let's stop here for a while. Enjoy the moment. Other companies would say, oh, I know that with 15 people I can make $1 million. Then I'll raise some money, or I will hire like 3 or 4 salespeople, and then next year we can do 3 million or 2.5, whatever, and grow at the expense of company culture, employee satisfaction, strategy, even, or So we don't want to run around with like headless chicken. I'm not saying this is not good. It's just not for everybody. And in our case, that it's our first company, for instance, it's important that we take safe steps, right? And we want to be pretty safe in what we do. We're pretty conservative about most of the things we do. At the same time, we do like risk, right? But we don't want to risk, or we don't want to jeopardize our employees, which are our best asset, right? And most companies, consulting companies, they would do things like, oh, I have my set of clients, but this other super big client comes along and says like, hey, I want to hire you, but oh shit, I have no availability. You know what? I'm gonna do like some puzzle here. I'm gonna do a Tetris game, and I will incorporate this new client. I'll have not a lot of time for the rest, so kind of like the rest will become second-class citizens with the new client. If you prioritize new clients all the time, like the old clients are gonna leave you. You're gonna have a lot of churn. We have never lost a client to any other provider in 5 years. Do you know any agency that has got that? We've never done it. We have only lost clients when they have closed out the company, which is really sad, but we have survived a lot of clients, right? But once they are with us, they just don't change. The biggest feedback I get from clients, or the most repeated feedback I get, is like, you guys are expensive, but you're fucking worth it. So that's where we want to be. We want to be the #1 provider of trust. We have said no to really big companies. And so like, hey, I would love to work with you, but I don't have availability, and I cannot guarantee that I will be able to pull off what you require of me. So if I'm not gonna lie, like, this is what it is. You either take what there is. Like, I can offer you, like, for instance, we were talking to a company that wanted 5 developers in like a month. I said, like, we can do that. We're booked for like 3, 4, 5, 6 months in advance, right? We said, we've got one person at the end of the month, and then we might have another one like in a month and a half afterwards, right? And that's our plan. And they're like, okay, that's too few. We're going for another company. We're like, fine. Other companies might have, they would go and remove like sea and water and everything, and to find 5 developers who they haven't trained, who have never worked at the company, who don't share the values, who don't know the technologies, who don't know most of the things. And they would kind of like lie to this client, and in order to get it, they want to get it at whatever cost, right? It's just not right. So that's why I'm saying like Basecamp, they're not only an example for us, they're actually the foundation of our company culture. If you follow our blog, we basically talk about this lifestyle business.
I'm completely agree with you, and I think this book I read 3 or 4 years ago. I have it in here, a few books on Spanish for the team, which I think is super important. And
I read them every year.
Okay, good. Thank you. I will read it again. I never
religiously. Every year I kick off the year by reading the Basecamp books.
I do the audio book, but I'm going to read the second one. Also about the blog post, you are an amazing writer. You have an amazing blog post. I read a few of them, and tell me, how do you sit down? Do you write the blogs? Do you have any? I would say Mondays I write my post, on Tuesday. Do you have any organization for the week? And share with the community.
To give a little bit of context, because you asked me that in the previous question, I didn't answer. It's like we don't have an office, right? We're a company that has got no office. Therefore, we don't have distractions. That's like the Basecamp way of doing it. We're an incredibly productive company because we have no fixed meetings. We might have like 1 or 2 fixed meetings in the week, and that's it, right? I do have a meeting with the marketing team, so to speak, which is me and another person in the company on Monday to kind of like plan ahead and review. But it's mostly a motivational thing, because when we come out of this meeting, we're really motivated, and it's really short. It's as short. So the goal is to do it as short as possible. We book 1 hour, but sometimes it's 10 minutes long. And if it's 10 minutes long, it's like, boom, done. We don't need to take up the full hour, right? And then I have another meeting every Friday with my 2 co-founders. And that's it, to kind of review the goals. So organization-wise, we're very liquid. We're very flexible. No meetings, no emails. Everything we organize through Basecamp and Slack on direct conversation and short calls, and that's it, right? Everything is asynchronous because we work remotely, sometimes from different countries. And our clients, we've had clients in San Francisco, and that's like 9-10 hours difference. And we work remotely and asynchronously. It works perfectly well if you're organized and responsible and communicate well. So with regards to blog writing, I have been writing blogs since I was like 14 or 15. I love writing. So, but it was always a challenge. I remember when I started writing the blog for Marsbased, I didn't know, I had never written about technology. And we didn't have projects. We didn't, we were just starting the company. So what can you talk about when you start a company, right? There's not a lot you can say, oh, we did this for a client, or we had this experience, or hey, here's this business management lesson that I learned. Not really, not in the first months or the first year, right? So I try to get inspired by some other companies, and we basically talked about ourselves as a company, something like super stupid stuff like, hey, we went to this event. Hey, we signed a partnership with this company. Hey, we thought this is a great idea. This is how we built our blog. This is how we built our website. This is how we hired the first person. Things like that, right? And it kind of like made us more honest and human, if you will. And it's sort of like got me into writing more and more often, right? Eventually, I came to the point like now that I'm writing a piece of content every day. That's my challenge for 2019. I more or less have been doing it for a couple of years now, because I write for the Marsbased blog. Yes. Startupgrind blog. I've got a personal blog. Sometimes I do contributions to other stuff, right? But then I write on Medium. I write newsletter. I send newsletters. Now I'm writing a book. So, there's content that I can write every day, or new pages for the for the Marsbased website, like, portfolios and stuff like that. So my goal 2019 is to create a piece of content every day. And so far, I think I've done it every day, save for one, in which I was terribly
I know which one. I'm very sure I know the day it was.
Which
the
one?
Day after. The day after Christian's party.
That was no. Write a piece of content. No, yeah, you're right. I didn't write one that night, that day.
I'm sure.
But I decided to skip it for another reason. But I'm pretty sure I wrote. I've got a list. I've got a list of like writing every day. Let me just go back to it, and I'll tell you. It's 19. No, I actually wrote. I wrote a couple of chapters from my book. So yeah,
Good.
I didn't write on January 12th, which was a Saturday. And anyways, so I do have a schedule for writing. For instance, I mean, I write whenever I feel like it, but I'm doing business development, so I'm pretty interrupted all the time. Calls, meetings, events. I'm always here and there. So, but I do have this thing where I block Mondays and Fridays. I have no meetings or calls, right? And Monday morning, I blogged about it very recently. You should go to my blog and find it. It's my super effective Mondays or something like this. I think I wrote, and it is the first thing I do in the day. The first thing on Monday is to write a blog post for Marsbased, and then I go for a short run, and then I do whatever I can to advance on all the deals that we've got in our sales funnel. And the fourth or fifth thing I do on Monday is to check email, right? Then, it depends. The rest of the week is kind of like, hey, if I feel inspired on Tuesday or Wednesday, I might write a blog post as well. But Monday is mandatory. I always want to have, because now we've been writing a blog post every month or every 2-3 weeks. The strategy for this year is to write at least once a week. So, and we're keeping up. We're at good pace already. And it definitely adds a lot of value. It makes people find it makes it easy to find us on Google. We position really well, like SEO wise. We are in the first page, first result for Ruby on Rails development Barcelona, Ruby development Barcelona, JavaScript development Barcelona, Node.js developers Barcelona, or even Spain, things like that. So we're pretty good at that, and we've been dedicating a lot of effort to that, but through great content, not through hacks or dodgy tactics.
I like you, Alex, very much. Dodgy tactics. When you write a blog, are you thinking about, which I don't think so, are you thinking about being positioned on those keywords you're really writing because you want to communicate?
In a way, I'm not thinking of keywords. I'm thinking bigger. I'm thinking of fields, right? We want to be well known for Node.js development. We want to be well known for React, for Ruby on Rails, for entrepreneurship, for hiring developers, right? For bootstrap businesses. So I think about topics. I don't think about keywords. If I thought about keywords, I would probably have like a better SEO, and maybe it would be more effective and faster. But in the long term, we're playing a game that Google is always going to like it, right? It's good content, frequency, not overloaded with keywords, not forcing keywords, or of course we don't write. I mean, we have got a strategy to write on like 3-4 different subjects. But if I feel like writing about how we use Basecamp, like how the hell is that going to help our company? But it's honest. It's good content, and people are gonna like it. It's like, oh, okay, I can. So Marsbased use Basecamp this way. I was doing it the wrong way, or maybe I can adapt this thing or this other thing, right? So it's helpful. Sometimes I write about, hey, I went to this event, right, and it was great. And I don't think that's gonna bring any traffic to us, but it's a good way of saying of communicating. You want to communicate to your followers. Which is kind of weird, because when you start out a newsletter or a blog, you're writing essentially for nobody, right? And now it feels weird because there's no one reading, right?
It's like a diary in a way in the beginning, isn't it?
It's a good exercise. Yeah, I never thought about it like this, but it's good. Like for instance, but they always say, for instance, we launched the newsletter in May last year, right? And they always say, if you want to have a newsletter today, you should start 1 year ago. Right? Or if you want to have a newsletter in 1 year, just start now. So, and that was my approach. The first newsletter, we were writing as though we had a community behind it, and we probably had like 20 people. We managed to grow it to 300 people, but we didn't do many tactics, right? It's like, I know people just sign up. Sometimes we post it on social media. It's like, hey, we launch another newsletter, or on Facebook, or we forward it to somebody, and that's it. And we see that the numbers are getting up. Of course, we could growth hack the shit out of it, but I think that for our product, it doesn't, which is ourselves, it doesn't really make sense. It might make sense for other products like B2C, even some B2B products, but for services or super niche services like we are, not really. That would be very short-sighted. It's like, oh, I have a lot of people, but then I will have like a lot of people unsubscribing and a lot of churn because, they just sign up for one cool thing once, but it doesn't really add value to them over time. So we're playing long-term strategy. We're going to be here for like 15, 20 years. I don't know.
I love your recommendations, Alex. And just one of the last questions, which some of the people here, how about not having an office? How does it affect you positively and negatively? And can anyone build a business without having an office? Obviously, yes.
Yeah. When we started the company, one of our co-founders was living 2 hours. I mean, he's still living there. He's living 2 hours away from Barcelona. He needed to commute every day, and he grew tired of it, right? Because it's not really effective. You lose a lot of time. It has a draining effect on your mental health and even on your physical health, right? And stress and all of that. I travel a lot. And I told you, we created the company when I was in San Francisco, and I stayed there for 3 months. Sometimes I fuck off to places like Indonesia or Thailand, and I work from there for a month or two, right? So it didn't really make sense to create a company. When we started, we wanted to be the three of us only, so the three co-founders, a crew of freelance, and that's it. And working remotely. But we found so much business, and we had maybe not so many clients because we've never had a lot of clients, but we have big clients, and these big clients require more structure. So therefore we hire people, and then we say like, are we gonna have an office for a person? Because Alex is never gonna be there because he's traveling. Jordi, which lives 2 hours away from Barcelona, is never gonna come to the office. So are we gonna have like the office for our CTO who lives in Barcelona and that developer? Not really. So what we did is we started doing 1 or 2 days of co-working a week in order for the team kind of like to get to know each other, right? Because when we hired the first person, I knew him because I used to work with him in our previous company, but he didn't know my co-founders. And we thought it would be a great idea to work for, 1 day a week to kind of like have them to get to know each other
inside of the company.
Yeah, but then we said, okay, we're gonna do this for some time, and then we will stop once he gets accustomed, right? But the funny thing is, after 3 months, we hired another person. And then after 3 months, we hired another person. So we've been doing this. We've kind of like been hiring a new person every 3-4 months. So we never stopped. And now it's become part of the company. We don't even question it anymore. I think we haven't hired anybody for like 6, 7, 8 months now, but we keep doing it because it's part of the thing. We are a more productive company as a result. The trade-off is on creativity, right? We know that by bumping into each other, by talking in the coffee breaks or in the lunchtime and whenever, we would come up with better ideas. Maybe we would share more stuff. So we have created some sort of a virtual office to compensate that. I don't think it compensates at 100%, but for instance, like at 10:30 a.m. every morning and at 3 p.m. we open up, like we let everybody know that there's a video chat for like 5, 10, 15 minutes for people to just show up and talk in the water cooler, right? And then we do other stuff. We try to make it so that you talk to people every now and then, and for whatever thing, just have a short call with them. I need to know this with this person. It's okay to call them from time to time just to get to know them. We meet every 2 months. We meet in person. We fly them all over to Barcelona, and we have a couple of company days. And then once a month, we have an online hackathon where we work with a video screen on internal projects for the entire day. So we do a lot of stuff. We do a company retreat once a year. We went to Dublin last year. We went to Tenerife 2 years ago. So we do a lot of stuff to kind of like compensate the fact that we have no office. But I think we only want to hire people who don't want to have an office, and that's our niche people. And that's why it's interesting when you go to hire, right? Because we will never hire people who need an office to work.
I love the fact, Alex. I will stay here for a few hours. I think we have to catch up again soon.
Sure.
Alex is having a Startupgrind this afternoon in Barcelona. I'm sorry, tickets are sold out. Alex, is there any chance anyone who wants to come, can they join? Or fuck them, next time get it earlier? Be honest, man. There's no hard feelings.
I'm not gonna say that. Now, I mean, if there's a waiting list, sometimes just join the waiting list on the ticketing website, because sometimes some people cancel their attendance and all of that. I just received an email today from one of the sponsors saying, we normally our sponsors get 5 tickets, and say like, oh, we're gonna use only 3 this time. Perfect. So 2 people from the waiting list got in, right? So, or some of my friends say, hey, sorry, I paid for a ticket, but I will not be able to come. I had to cancel. I had like a travel or whatever. So just feel free to reallocate this ticket to somebody else. So there's a slight chance. But I think like we've got like 50 people on the waiting list. It's a pretty popular event.
I think today coming on, isn't it?
What is that?
Travel Perk, isn't it?
Travel Perk, yeah, it's one of the hottest companies right now in Barcelona.
I know very well Joris. He's one of the growth hacker there, which
great.
Listening. And I think Gibby is one of the guys on the top as well. Travel Perk is just top. I've been to the office. I love it. I love how
they're crushing it.
They're doing amazing. I think they just did around 15 million.
Do they use Find a Lead?
Maybe.
You should ask them.
I know. I just cannot share it, man. Yes, they do.
Right.
Man, fuck it. Yes, they do it. Let me say yes.
Come on. You're gonna be.
They're amazing guys. That's why they're doing so much grow, Alex.
Yeah.
Alex, one hack for anyone who's life hack and professional hack, just to finish up.
Wow, professional hack. Look, I started doing this one thing that it's really cool. It's I used to work with Trello to prioritize my schedule, this and that, and then I try to move to things. I've tested a lot of stuff, right? But you know what works the best? Is I created a note on my Apple Notes, which is called Today, and I just list the things I need to do today. If I don't remember, like they're probably not important, and if I don't get them done today, if they're really important, I put them tomorrow. I mean, I try to fit in today. But otherwise, I do that tomorrow. But if they've been sitting there for too long, I just remove them, right? Because when you have this backlog clogging up your mental bandwidth or your company or your task list, that's very toxic. You end up worried about not doing enough. So just like clear it up frequently, and it works. Of course, I will disappoint a lot of people, and I will get fewer things done, but I think I will focus on the more meaningful ones.
I love it. And a personal hack?
Personal hack. Wow. So personal hack. I'm forcing myself to do healthy stuff every day. As in, like, I've been working out for 4 years straight, almost every day. I try to do it. Reading as well. I always read before going to bed. I'm writing every day. So, it's important to allow. My personal hack is just don't let work get in the way of living, right?
Yes, I love that.
8 hours a day or even 6 hours a day are more than enough to accomplish everything you want.
I fully agree with
you. You're spending 8 hours a day sleeping, 8 hours working. So the other third of your life, you need to make sure you spend it the best way you can, right? Try to maximize having fun on that part. So that would be my hack.
Wow, man, I love it. And I really enjoy interviewing you, Alex. I hope I am on the expectations. Just to let you know, Alex will be this afternoon on the Startupgrind in Barcelona, and he loves metal. Alex, it's amazing to have you here, man. And
Thank you very much,
hopefully
mate.
see you soon. And we will share. Don't close the call. We are ending the broadcast, but Alex, don't go, please.